believe that Kirby Smart and Georgia have the most pressure on them entering this 2021 season?
Well, they're certainly one of the teams that do. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, they've got to look. I mean, in fairness, they've won the SEC, beating Auburn in the SEC championship game. They got to the championship game with Alabama. Tua hits Devonta Smith, and Bama wins the game. But still, Georgia fans would tell you right now, and we're in the middle of them, because in Jacksonville has the second largest Bulldog club in America, next to the one in Atlanta. So we hear that all the time. That can Kirby get over the hump, and the hump's going to be is obviously continue to win the East. Can they beat Alabama in the SEC championship game and be able to make consistent improvement? JT Daniels with them, Zamir White. I mean, they've got a really good running back room. James Cook, Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, Dejon Edwards. The defense is going to be very good. To the West Virginia transfer coming over really, really helped the secondary, to say the least. They've got a really good kicker who, frankly, is from our area in South Georgia that nailed the 50-plus yard field goal to beat Cincinnati in the bowl game, and the thing may have gone 60 at that point. So I'm concerned, Mark, about the wide receivers being banged up. And how that could hurt Georgia. Kirby Smart said at the end of the spring game that the offensive line had the furthest to go of any unit on the field. I would also say the secondary does too. But I think that's a great point. And let me throw this out at you too. If they lose to Clemson and start 0-1. How much pressure is that going to put on them at that point, knowing that if they lose another game, that they could be out of it early? But now, my counter to that is, if you and this is the only thing that matters, the playoff committee would give Georgia a lot of credit for playing that game to begin with, and frankly, even a loss to Clemson would not, by any stretch of imagination, take them out of the national championship picture. You win the SEC, you're in the playoffs, right, basically. But you know Georgia fans, I know Georgia fans, they lose that Clemson game, and there will be a lot of pressure on them. And listen, I'm not saying they're going to lose this game, but they play UAB early. And UAB does not have the roster that Georgia does. But I can tell you this, that UAB coaching staff is really good. So I could see UAB, particularly after an emotional couple weeks after that Clemson game, that could be somewhat of a challenge. So to your question, and Kirby would say right now, well, we take the pressure, we're okay with it, and we can live with it. But you know, and I know that there's a tremendous amount on him right now in that coaching staff.
UAB went to Coral Gables last year, and they had a one-score game with Miami into the fourth quarter before losing by multiple scores. So they played well against a top 15 opponent last year. To your point, James Scott is making the comment in the live chat, and I completely agree that the point spread in the Clemson-Georgia game is going to be huge, especially on Georgia's side. So I think the conventional thought is that it's certainly a more meaningful game for Georgia because of the conference schedule versus what Clemson has to face. Clemson could lose to Georgia. They could lose to Georgia by 2 scores and then go win the ACC and win every game and win the conference and go to the playoffs.
Easily.
Be 13-1. Georgia, though, if they lose that game, again, to James' point, I believe, and I've stated this a number of times, that the committee is going to give the loser of that game a ton of credit if it's, let's say it's a classic. It is just a great game. It almost even though it's a loss in the loss column, it almost proves that as long as the winner of the game goes on to do what we expect them to do, that for the loser, it almost substantiates how good they are, even though it's a loss.
Right.
You lost 38-35 in a great, great game to one of the top 3 teams in the country. Okay, what are you going to fall 2-4?
Right.
Or maybe even hold your ground because you basically proved that you're as good as they are. You just happen to lose the game. But to your point, Georgia's then going to have to face an SEC regular season and then an SEC championship game.
Right.
And we know who we all expect to be sitting there in Atlanta.
Well, and see, here's the other thing I think, too, with Georgia is, I mean, you know they're going to be up for Auburn. You know they're going to be up for Florida. But see, the problem in this league, and look, Mark, we covered the ACC just about as close as we do the SEC, but we just have to be honest about this. If Clemson loses that game, their chance of being tripped up is so minimal compared to what it's going to be for Georgia. And look, I remember the NC State game a few years ago, Mark, that NC State misses a field goal and they should have beat Clemson. Well, what are you going to have that once every 5 years or something like that? In the SEC, you can have that every year. So it's like you remember a couple of years ago when South Carolina beats Georgia in that incredible upset. So I mean, that's what I'm looking at is if Georgia loses Clemson. I mean, even if you split, say, Auburn and Florida, there's always a chance in this league on the road on a rainy, messy, weird kind of night of anything happening in the SEC. They'll have the talent to do it. I don't have any doubt that Georgia's got their typical tremendous talent. I mean, at this point, you've got look, the best rosters in the nation. This is how I go by college football. It's the top 50 players, and Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia, or I think, or in that group, that you could say that those schools have made the ultimate compromise and the ultimate decision is to go all out for college football, and it shows. They've got the facilities, they've got the players, they've got the resources, and all that goes along with it.